Hi, I'm Kesten Rono, and you've made it to day 80 of A Course in Miracles. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being curious how to see things differently. Thank you for being open to asking questions and noticing if you receive anything in reply. Reviewing Principle 20. Miracles reawaken the awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth. This is the recognition that leads to the healing power of the miracle. Miracles reawaken the awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth. This is the recognition that leads to the healing power of the miracle. So there are healing powers of miracles. We've talked about them transcending the body, sudden shifts to the invisible, away from the bodily level. And that is why they heal. Something about the spiritual, something about this shift. Miracles reawaken the awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth. That true vision is coming from the spiritual lens, seeing life through the spiritual lens. True vision is not coming from the bodily lens, seeing life through this physical lens. This is the recognition that we remember our spiritual awareness and its truth. This is the recognition that leads to the healing power of the miracle. May you allow yourself to transcend your body by being curious about what life would mean if you were to be seeing it from your spiritual lens, whatever it is that you are, this consciousness. And however you may have permission to notice life as you align yourself with ideas of abundance, truth, and love, and set aside your upsets to see the root idea in everything, in every problem, to be open to the idea that your connection to the Holy Spirit, that is, the ability to see truth for truth and illusion for illusion, undoing this separation, is the solution to any problem. That the inability to see the truth using our bodily lens, preservation of body, limited time, perspective. Therefore, seeing scarcity, being afraid of it running out, fear of death, when instead we could see the idea of fear not resulting in our death itself, that we still continue to exist. That seeing life through this bodily lens asks us to participate in some cycle of attacks, believing that we are not inherently safe, that we are not free of worry. We are assigning meaning to everything around us. But because we cannot see the underlying meaning of all things, that we do not see everything enveloped in our holiness, that we have not even tried this idea on, even though we are conscious as we move around in the body. This causes us to aim ourselves towards some purpose based off of some meaning, some definition of what things are, that is fundamentally not in our best interest. If we are building on the realm of the bodily plane without having spent time to be curious what our consciousness is, that we are missing a perspective on what it is that we are doing here. Every idea we have, after all, to execute on the physical plane, every idea we have is coming from the invisible, from our imagination. I'm sure we think a great deal, and I'm wondering how much we feel, though. Do we ever make it to our mind, or are we ever only in our brain? True vision would be to notice that we are fundamentally at peace, fundamentally safe. If we can see these ideas, our freedom from worry, to be aligned with unconditional love, to simply just know the truth, to be connected to other minds. If we could see these things, they begin to really reduce, if not eliminate, the importance of other ideas. That had we known this idea, we would not have been pursuing that other goal quite that way. So maybe we move forward. Maybe we notice if there's some other way that we feel and some other way that we enjoy feeling. And may we be curious, if we do, about what life looks like when we wear that idea instead of one of fear, lack, shame, depression, anger, sadness, loss, justice. What is it that we become when we try on these ideas as the lenses, the veil in front of whatever it is that we are and whatever it is that we believe we are seeing? What is it like to look at life through peace and forgiveness rather than anxiety and attack? Miracles reawaken the awareness that the spirit, not the body, is the altar of truth. This is the recognition that leads to the healing power of the miracle. Let me recognize this problem so it can be solved. Lesson 80. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. Okay. Moving from let me recognize this problem so it can be solved. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. Please repeat this one time. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. If you are willing to recognize your problems, you will recognize that you have no problems. Your one central problem has been answered, and you have no other. Therefore, you must be at peace. Salvation thus depends on recognizing this one problem and understanding that it has been solved. One problem, one solution. Salvation is accomplished. Freedom from conflict has been given you. Accept that fact, and you are ready to take your rightful place in God's plan for salvation. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. Your only problem has been solved. Repeat this over and over to yourself today with gratitude and conviction. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. My only problem has been solved. Thank you. You have recognized your only problem, opening the way for the Holy Spirit to give you God's answer. You have laid deception aside and seen the light of truth. You have accepted salvation for yourself by bringing the problem to the answer. You have accepted salvation for yourself by bringing the problem to the answer. We have been asking ourselves, let this problem be revealed for what it really is. What is it? What is the answer? You have accepted salvation for yourself by bringing the problem to the answer. And you can recognize the answer because the problem has been identified. We are finally naming our problem. Our problem is not seeing in alignment with the Holy Spirit. You have recognized your only problem, opening the way for the Holy Spirit to give you God's answer. You are entitled to peace today. A problem that has been resolved cannot trouble you. Only be certain you do not forget that all problems are the same. Only be certain that you do not forget that all problems are the same. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. All problems are the same. Their many forms will not deceive you while you remember this. One problem, one solution. One problem, one solution. Only one problem, only one solution. Accept the peace this simple statement brings. In our longer practice periods today, we will claim the peace that must be ours when the problem and the answer have been brought together. The problem must be gone because God's answer cannot fail. Having recognized one, you have recognized the other. The solution is inherent in the problem. You are answered and have accepted the answer. You are saved. God's answer cannot fail. This is a very interesting statement. It's like the eternal winner of rock, paper, scissors. We might want to argue these statements. Perhaps we judge ourselves for the way these statements sound. Or imagine someone we know, hopefully they're paying attention, but someone we know, wondering where this language has come from. And then we arrive at something like, God's answer cannot fail. The problem must be gone because God's answer cannot fail. This one rings of truth. Everything, of course, comes down to, do you believe in God? Do you believe in a creator, the God, a God? I'm attempting to relax the term, but if you pictured God, however you see it, however you see the creator of whatever it is that you are, to include whatever it is that you are in the invisible, beyond just our body, lest you think that there is nothing beyond electricity in the body, and that is the entire experience. What an interesting box to put yourself in. But for those of us who can dream of what an idea of a God would be, and then, if we can, then the God of gods, What would that God be? It would be almighty in every aspect. If this was our creator, I would imagine that you can imagine the creator, the almighty, is always successful. If you were comparing him to other gods, he would trump every other god. If you were comparing him to us, he would, of course, be ultimately successful compared to us with our relatively infinitesimally small set of experiences compared to the eternal, the all-knowing. We will claim the peace that must be ours when the problem and answer have been brought together. The problem must be gone because God's answer cannot fail. Do you believe that if God was saying anything to you, the God that we just described, whatever it is that he would be saying to you, do you believe it could fail? If it could fail, what could be overriding God? Do you really think anything could? Is that the version of the creator you would imagine for yourself? Having recognized one, you recognize the other. If we can see the problem, we can see the solution. If we can see the solution, we can see the problem. Everything came down to defining what exactly the problem was, rather than please name every problem you can think of. This feels like an infinite list. But one problem, one solution, certainly allows us to relax and focus as we would all achieve some greater measurable we would achieve something of significance if there was something common to every problem. And every problem, the more that we could consider it, would extend into the infinite. Well, then doing at least something, if not addressing fully, of course, but at least doing something that would allow us to dismantle the root of every other kind of problem. Well, this power moves into the infinite, for it would apply to every problem we could ever imagine if we imagined they all had to be separate problems, but that they had some common theme at the root of whatever they are. The solution is inherent in the problem. You are answered and have accepted the answer. You are saved. That we are asking for the problem to be clearly identified so we may understand. And in understanding the problem, that we think there are infinite problems. In understanding the problem, we instantly know the solution. Cause and effect happen simultaneously. We accept this answer, this solution. Now let the peace that your acceptance brings be given you. Close your eyes and receive your reward. Recognize that your problems have been solved. Recognize that you are out of conflict, free and at peace. Above all, remember that you have one problem and that the problem has one solution. It is in this that the simplicity of salvation lies. It is because of this that it is guaranteed to work. Okay. We're reminding ourselves that we have one problem and one solution. Here, when it says, recognize your problems have been solved, does that feel like it's true? It seems like we've just been here on this video still, and suddenly our problems are solved. I could think of so many problems. And if I can, I would say, let me recognize this problem so it can be solved. This is attempting to ask us to understand that this is already done, that we are living in some kind of world where we believe a problem is persisting, but it's already been taken care of. That all we need to do is simply accurately understand the problem, that the solution is inherent in the problem, and therefore it just is. It is differently. We can see it differently because the problem is that we are not seeing correctly. The problem, if we are looking for peace and safety that cannot exist in the physical realm the same way, the problem is that we are insisting to continue to look for it in the physical realm. We are using our conscious mind, putting on autopilot and saying, dig through all the rubble and find it for me. That's our problem. Our problem is in not realizing that our conscious mind that we've put on autopilot while we dig through the rubble. Hang on. I'll get to you after I can procure X for my future. Then I'm safe enough to meditate. I can relate to this. How can anyone feeling like they're stressed, deeply stressed, perform and not fall behind? They'll naturally want to get ahead, usually in some monetary sense, to buy time for the future, likely saving in the money that loses value to pay for things into the future. It's futile. But we know that the poorest, attempting to figure out how to eat that day, that they need a small amount of money relative to what it is that we believe we need in a year. They need a small amount of money each year. And suddenly, their creativity allows them to think into the future, that they feel that they are provided for, their needs are met, and they don't have some long list of keeping up with the Joneses. They start taking care of their environment. I would imagine looking to get yield with all of this extra money they have now to invest. Yield in a very real way. Can I plant? Do I have time to grow things? What other technology can I create or use or procure? This is the low time preference mindset that we want to allow ourselves to adopt, that says we do not need anything right this moment, that we are perfectly safe, that we have freedom from worry. This allows us to save whatever it is that we are rather than depleting it, believing that we need to give up our energy or time or however you want to see it to ideas about the past or some cycle of attacks. That we may have that energy back. That if we are aligned with the truth and we can see right through those ideas, we have no need to spend our time pretending that they're real. Our presence takes less and less energy the more that we undo, the more that we let go of old ideas with this power of forgiveness. You are becoming more at ease. What does that mean? Well, you are still existing, so you're still going through the same, so to speak, motions, but the weight of whatever it is you're carrying is being reduced. It's easier for you to be you. You're increasing how much energy you have from this analogy all the time because you're not spending it trying to justify an illusion. You have all that back instantly by knowing the truth. What do you imagine you would create if you felt more alive? If you could see clearly about what mattered to you and therefore what you wanted to build? Would the future not be growing more abundant at all times? Recognize that you are out of conflict and at peace. Remember that you have one problem and that the problem has one solution. It is in this that the simplicity of salvation lies. It is because of this that it is guaranteed to work. Assure yourself often today that your problems have been solved. Repeat the idea with deep conviction as frequently as possible. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. And be particularly sure to apply the idea for today to any specific problem that may arise. Let me recognize this problem has been solved. Let us be determined not to collect grievances today. Let us be determined to be free of problems that do not exist. The means is simple honesty. The means to no longer collect grievances, to be determined to be free of problems that do not exist. One problem, one solution. The problem is that we're seeing many problems. Let's try on a spirit affirmed identity. How do these same problems look from this idea? One problem, one solution. To be free of problems requires simple honesty. Do not deceive yourself about what the problem is, and you must recognize it has been solved. Let me recognize this problem has been solved. Let me recognize this problem has been solved. To see what my problem is to know the solution. That God, of course, would have not let us run away with our imagination. We imagine without leaving the clue to help us to wake up right alongside of us. We have just been trying not to look. Let's relax our fear on identifying the problem so we can see what it is, so it may be solved, so we may recognize that it is already solved as soon as we are able to recognize what the problem is. This is true vision. This is where we are headed. I am Kesten Rono. Let me recognize this problem has already been solved.